But how did they start? Welcome back, Mr. Carter. Welcome back. Welcome back.
Welcome back. Okay. No singing.
I shouldn't probably, some people would probably be really confused by the age reference there. They're like, wait.
Who's Cotter?
Yeah.
Who's Mr. Cotter? Welcome back, Cotter.
I used to joke my dad, which he may or may not be watching this. We used to tell him when we were growing up that he looked like Tony Danza. Which is pretty funny.
I see it.
And then we used to tell him that he looked like John Travolta. And so
okay. I need to see some pictures of your dad.
Yeah, he used to get so mad about that.
He doesn't want to look like John Travolta?
I don't think he wanted to look like anyone else but himself.
Okay. All right. Fair point.
One of those things.
Point, Father Marino.
That's it. So how are you doing, Honoree?
I'm great. It feels like it's been so long since we've had a live conversation.
Yeah, it really does. I mean,
it has been.
Well, we went live. Yeah, I think it was like a couple weeks now. So we went live with some other people. We haven't been live together.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So it was before EBM.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yep.
And so that was in June.
You had a Karen and I had a Karen. And then neither of us did anything. And now we're here.
We had Karens.
Yep.
And we met in Nashville.
Yes, we did.
And we got to do the EBM visit.
We did.
And that was awesome because we got to see Karen Hunsinger in person.
Yes, we did.
And all the friends.
All the friends.
Work out business strategies and encouragement and all the great mentorship and all the things that come with being an amazing mastermind. And while we were there, we celebrated something, didn't we?
We did.
Did someone publish a book?
Because only a crazy person would host a mastermind and launch a book in the same week. 2 books, not just one, but 2. Yeah. 1 English, 1 German. It's fine. I'm a crazy person sometimes.
Well, we talked about like the day before. I was like, well, wait a minute. What? Like you have a book coming out on Monday and we're all seeing each other on Tuesday.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think you dropped what was the guy's name on Popeye that used to do the, I'll gladly pay you for a hamburger today or pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today?
Yes.
Wimpy. Yeah.
Yes.
So this is it. This is the book.
Yeah.
So if you guys haven't seen this yet, it's Write Your First Nonfiction Book, which I'm totally not upset wasn't available 2 years ago. It's a primer for aspiring authors.
Do you have some bitterness you need to let go?
No, actually, I circumvented the whole book and went straight to like the source.
As one would do. One would do. Yes.
So it worked out. It worked out pretty well. But if you guys aren't in that position, you don't have to worry about all that. You don't have to do all that. You can literally pick this book up and it is amazing. It's so different than so for those that are familiar with your catalog, like the very first book I read of yours was You Must Write a Book. And it's different than Write Your First Nonfiction Book completely. They're not even the same focus. I found that, I found that to be like fascinating.
How so? Tell me more about that.
Well, I wasn't sure what to expect because I thought, well, she's already published a book about publishing books.
Mm-hmm.
So my brain was kind of scattered a little bit where I was like, well, wait a minute, what is this? How is this different? And it's very different. It's in no way, shape, or form the same book whatsoever. And we could talk about that once we dive into the discussion on the book.
Sure.
But before we do that, I mean, we talked about EBM.
Yeah.
Right. Meeting in Nashville. What else has been going on in your life? What else are you up to?
You know what? We have a sick kitty cat, Mr. Pickles. So for people who are animal people, that's a big consideration in our house is, who are we eating? Are we doing all the things we're supposed to be doing? Meaning the cat. And then I was on vacation. The reason I haven't been here is summertime is when I take vacation. So I had a week last week. I have a week next week. I have 2 weeks in August. You've got a vacation coming up. We need to sync that up though. We did not sync up our vacations. So, oh well.
Yeah. Well, you would have been at the mercy of the rental market in Folly Beach, South Carolina.
Ah, well, there is that. Yes.
Which,
So
by the way, is a great spot to go if you're looking for an East Coast beach destination. Folly Beach, South Carolina is amazing.
okay. Well, Byron is always down for a beach. I'm always down for no sun whatsoever. So
Tell me about, like, you just want blacked out curtains? Like, what do you do?
I am not and I know a lot of people love this, but I don't like to go sit by a pool like all day.
Gotcha.
Right. And I don't like to go sit at the beach
Sure.
all day. Now I'm talking to our friend Brianna and she's like, yeah, we're beach people. She's like, we'll go sit at 10 o'clock in the morning and we're there all day until supper time. Right. We're just by the water all day. Of course, she has this beautiful skin that tans, and I have two colors. I'm either very, very pale or I'm bright pink, right? Like I'm or as red as this envelope, right?
There you go.
I don't have in between. I don't have in between. And so when I lived in Hawaii, I would, go to the beach in the early morning with my daughter and then be home before the sun really would go up, because I just get hot and gross and I don't want to be there. And
well, I was going to ask how you made that work when you lived in Hawaii. So you just answered that for me. So was it like hell?
Also, I had a business, and being an entrepreneur means you get to pick which 12 hours a day you work, right? So
I used to work for a chief who said, hey, we work half days around here, 12 hours. Yeah,
12 hours. Yeah.
12 hours.
So that's how I did that. I mean, when you work, then that's what you're doing during the day when other people are at the beach. And there's Renee.
Yes.
Hey, Renee.
What's up, Renee? Checking us out on YouTube. Now with
Speaking
the appropriate
of people who work and who are busy.
Yes.
That would be Renee.
Super engineering.
Yes.
That's that world.
So
there's no shortage of work in that world, and they will
never and forever. Yep.
I used to tell my guys on the ship, I'm like, look, if you are looking for a job where there's like a finite work list, you're in the wrong place. It's literally endless. It never ends. There's always a problem to solve.
I think you only have a job where you're done, where you just go to work and you are selling something like fast food or a grocery store. Like, because there's no work. You don't take those things home with you. They're done. When you're done, you're done. But on my vacation, I got to read.
What did you read?
Well,
you're worrying me with that face.
No. Books are my job, but they're my vocation. They're my avocation. And so if I'm not reading a book for work, I'm reading a book for fun. And being on vacation means I got to read. So I started Shoe Dog.
Shoe Dog?
Shoe Dog. It's by the founder of Nike. And of course, now I can't remember his name, obviously. Hi, Andre. Bonjour, Andre Michel. And then there's Bailey.
Oh, I'm over here. Can't figure out what I'm doing. There we go. There's Bailey. Hey, Bailey.
Bailey.
Who I called Amy yesterday on accident. You're going to appreciate this. I'm like, how am I reading someone else's name and saying your name and reading the wrong name? Poor Bailey.
Do you ever do that to your children? Do you ever go?
Absolutely.
Yeah, you call them all by their name, the dog's name, Tammy's name, whoever you are. It's like,
my grandfather used to know Luke, Blake, Pete, Harry, like, it's like throw out all these names. Yeah. And I used to go, what's wrong with you, man? And then I had kids and I'm like, okay, I don't know what to do with these.
That's right. That's right. Humans. Andre, are you a native French speaker by chance? Because that would be cool.
Hope. We can only hope.
We can only hope. Because
I'll be completely the odd guy out at that point. Like I speak absolutely like zero French.
Do you speak any Italian?
Very little. Very, very little.
That's so disappointing. I'm disappointed, Lucas.
Yeah. I speak more Spanish than I speak Italian. But
oh, interesting.
Yeah. I had to take I had to take a foreign language in high school way
Right,
back
of course,
in
we all did back in the
yeah.
80s.
Yeah, and so I took mine were in the 90s, but that's okay. I don't want to appropriate, you know, like
Wow.
you're got people
Wow.
calling me out like, dude.
Remember my old friend Lucas? We used to be so close.
Well, you were there in the 90s in high school too, Honoree. Is that how I cover that one?
I might have stopped by a high school in the 90s to drop off something.
Yeah, Andre, you can reply right there in the chat box. That is perfectly fine.
Oh, parliamo
Right
Italiano.
where you wrote, wherever you wrote bonjour, write your replies right there, and
Yes, that's awesome.
we'll be able to see them. I can put them up on the screen as they come in. Oh, he speaks French and Italian. I knew he spoke some Italian. With that last name,
Right,
you better
right.
speak a
We've
little
got
Italian.
Andre Michel, which is a French name, and Ferrari, which is so Italian. Fabulous.
Yeah, a
Fabulous.
little
I'm
Italian.
a little jealous.
Yeah. So, Andre, do you live near the Italian-French border? That would be cool.
He's like, I came to listen to you two clowns teach me something, not ask me 8 million questions.
Yeah.
Also, we're very curious, Andre.
Yeah,
so
teach you to come to our lives.
We already know where Bailey and Renee are. So
that's right. No, right where Bailey is. I've never been to where Renee lives, but I lived in the same place.
Now it's bugging me who wrote Shoe Dog, and I should know it. Who's the founder of Nike? Everyone knows.
Oh, that's what that's about.
Who's the founder of Nike?
I had no idea. I've never.
Well, I've been hearing for a long time, and I see the book on lists. Phil Knight, obviously.
Oh, there you go.
So anyway, I borrowed it from the library. I renewed it. And then I got the notice, your book is due today. And I was like, oh, snap. I'm going to go in and renew it. And I couldn't renew it. So I had to turn it in unfinished. Now I have to go put a hold on it, start over, or not start over, but find my place.
Right.
So Edmonton, Alberta, near the Italian border. Now I'm super jealous. He's French and Italian. Speaks French and Italian and lives in France near Italy.
Well, wait a minute. I thought Edmonton, Alberta was in Canada. That's why I'm laughing. I'm like,
not the original one there.
Not the original one, yeah.
Not the original one.
Andre, we appreciate you, man. This is great having you on. This is exactly why we enjoy the lives. Like we could just make recorded videos all day where we just talk very strictly about our topics, but we absolutely, like I said, my favorite part of the week is the live sessions with Honoree and getting ready to meet, or not getting ready to, but getting to talk with people that we don't normally get to speak with.
Yeah.
And doing it live is awesome. So Andre, you actually had asked me about Honoree's book on LinkedIn when I said, hey, we just put this out. Yeah, bad joke, he says. It's like, yeah. So I've got a lot of friends up in Canada, especially in the engineering world. I did a lot of work up there and interacted with had partners up there and everything. So, yeah, we're having a lot of fun with that. It's a good time. You know what? I have appreciation for Canada, having been to the one place everyone told me not to go to. I mean, I've been to the West Coast of Canada. I've been everyone said, where are you going? And I said, I'm going to Manitoba. And they went, oh, like Winnipeg? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, have a good trip. It's like,
okay, because
it's literally dead smack between East and West. It's like a plain city. But like I realized how real it was when I got to Minnesota and I was in Minneapolis's airport, and it was like the weather was kind of crazy and I had to fly north a couple of more hours. And I was like, okay, so here in the States, when you say you're going to Minneapolis, people go, oh,
it's going to be so cold there.
I was like looking at the map and I'm going, oh, I have a couple of hours north to go still. Like this is going to be fun. But I was there in the spring, so it was like beautiful. So
did you buy this book, Andre? And whatever book you bought, thank you. And so he bought my book in France. How cool is that?
He got it in Canada.
Stop it.
But he
Stop
he
it.
will he will
He's gonna return the book and turn off the live, Lucas, if you don't stop it.
he will one day get the oh, so you're west of Manitoba in oil country. Okay, cool. Or you're west of Winnipeg. Got it. Okay. So write your first nonfiction book. I was in my mind going like, what's the difference between this and publishing PhD when we started? I was privy to see this before you published it because I was on your ARC, right? I was on the advanced reader team.
You were technically like an alpha reader, right? You got the...
Yeah, if I had done exactly what you had asked me to do, I would have been.
Oh, if you had read it the first time I sent it to you?
I got like 70% through it, and I was like, "Oh, this is so good." And she's like, "Dude, did you finish the book?" And I'm like, "Almost. I'm almost done."
I mean, it's 20,000 words. It's not long.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
Yeah. Thanks, Andre. Yeah, I was gonna put this up here. He's been kind enough to reflect here, and I'm failing in my duties as a host to post his comments.
I was the host one time. It's so fun to put those comments up.
There you go. So Andre picked up write your first nonfiction book. Now, there's a few things I wanted to ask you about this book, Honoree.
Okay. All right.
If you don't mind.
I would be happy.
This is my serious face. So you wrote this book.
Serious? We're being serious now?
Yeah, something like that, right?
Okay.
You wrote this book. 2016 you published
You Must Write a Book.
You Must Write a Book, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is 7 years later.
Yes.
It's a completely different animal. It is in no way, shape, or form the same book. It isn't even the same topic. And what I loved about this was you captured in this book exactly what you taught me about publishing a nonfiction book. And you got the idea from our friend Ken Sanders.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, it was one of my emails.
Right.
So we would have called that a blog post back in the day, but now it's the newsletter, the email newsletter. It was just the topic of a newsletter. I just said, if you want a way to write a book without trying to figure out in your head what goes in which chapter, here is an idea. Here's a process for doing that. Here's what you put in chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I just identified what goes in each of the chapters. And I was very meta about it because I used a book that I had previously used. I wrote this book in that style. And then on the spot, I outlined a completely different book about a completely different subject using that process to show that it could apply to anything.
Excellent.
But it originally was just a post. And then Kent said, and only a writer or author can do this to another author or writer, which is give them a book to write. You should write a book about this. It's like, you just give me a book to write. So Kent actually gave me the idea to turn that into a book.
Right. And we thank Kent for that, because without that, exchange, we may not be looking at this beautiful cover, which I'm in love with, by the way. You can see the words coming out of the book.
Yeah.
Great job, Dino and Byron. Byron's like, hey, hold on a minute. What makes this different than publishing PhD? Then You Must Write a Book. What's the difference between this book and that book?
You Must Write a Book makes the argument for why someone should write a book, write and publish a book, and talks about the boost to the brand, what writing a book does for the author, the reasons behind the book, the job of the book, what the book can do for you. Write your first nonfiction book gives you a process to follow to actually get out of procrastination or out of, and there's a word I keep, Andre's over there speaking 3 languages. I'm trying to speak 1. I want to find a fancier word for inaction. Right? It's like, what's the word for when you're just stuck? You're not taking action because it feels like there are too many decisions to be made. Not only what am I going to write about, but what order does it go in, and what do I include, and where does it go, and which comes first, the chicken or the egg, that kind of thing. So I think a lot of time paralysis, that's the word I'm looking for. Stuck goes to paralysis. So English is my first, apparently only language. Maybe.
Maybe.
I want to say je parle un peu de français aussi, for the record. But
I have no idea what you just said.
well, we'll see if Andre does. And then he'll say if what I said was actually what I thought I said and if I am speaking the truth. Anyway,
I'm just nodding in agreement.
Getting out of paralysis and into action, because sometimes all it takes is someone to give you an order of operations. First do this and then do that. So apparently Bailey understood what I said.
I'm completely in the dark in this conversation.
I said, je parle un peu de français. I speak a little French.
Okay.
That's what I said. Je parle un peu de français.
What the heck is Bailey saying?
Moi aussi is me also.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Okay. So I wanted people to get out of paralysis and into action by giving them, well, first you do this, then you do this. So a recipe, like making a cake, is here are your dry ingredients, here are your wet ingredients, mix your dry ingredients, mix your wet ingredients, fold your wet ingredients into your dry ingredients, cook for 30 minutes, and then you have a cake.
Right.
But if you go, oh, I want a cake. Tu parles très bien le français. Ah, merci, merci. It's my win for today. It's my win for today.
This totally
understood me speaking French. That was cool.
Yeah, this is like Honoree's having the best time with this because she like
best time right now. I had my French conversation with my French friend today, who takes pity on me and has conversations with me every Thursday in the morning. So that's cool. So anyway, all right. So that was why I wrote this book, was to give people a process. So I've already made the argument for why you should write a book. Now I've given you the process for writing a book with the asterisk, with the permission, if needed, to move things around.
Gotcha.
To say, you can write about this in chapter 1, or you can write about this in chapter 7. You can move the blocks around as they fit your personality, your topic, and your preference, because you're the author. You get to decide what goes in your book because it's your book.
Well, and that was what was most, I guess what I was happiest to see about the book is that it really does dig into the details. And because when you first see the book, it's so neat and tidy. It's the size is smaller, right? Is it 4x2 by 6? Is that what it is?
4.2 by 7.
By 7. Okay.
Yeah, we can talk about that size if you'd like to.
Yeah, we'll definitely do that, because this is your second book this year you've put out this size, right? Mm-hmm. So we're definitely going to want to cover that and how you came to this size. And honestly, it's great for like pocket reference type material. Mm-hmm. Also, it doesn't take up a ton of room. Like, I like to keep books on my desk. If I showed you guys my desk right now, you'd all fall over in horror, but like, it's like books just stacked around me. Right. So it's like, nice. But this makes it nice because, this is a very manageable size book. But I love that, like, the very first point you make in this book is that you can do this. And I made a big point about doing that with Monetize Your Book with a Course, because I feel like the confidence piece is difficult. And you nail that right out the gate in chapter 1. So it's not like chapter 1 is very explicitly titled, "You Can Write Your First Book." And I was like, yeah, heck yeah, I can. Yeah. And you talk about doing hard things, and you talk about when and where and why and how. And you just right out the gate, you jump right into helping people overcome the obstacles that keep them from writing the book.
Yeah.
And then I found that obviously to be nice and motivational. But then you do something really interesting with chapter 2. And I'm not saying this because I'm in it, just saying it. You give examples of other people that have done this. So you're like, here, know that you can do this. You should be able, you recognize this for yourself. It's not just me telling you, you can do this.
Yeah.
You can recognize this for yourself. By the way, here are some people that were in your same exact shoes that I've worked with that all accomplished the same goal you're going for. And so by the
Not
time,
very long ago.
yeah, recently.
Right. Very recently.
Very recently. And so by the time I got out of chapter 2, I was like, all right, man, like I was all fired up. I was ready to rock. I'm like, let's start learning about it. And you jump right into the stages in the process. So I just loved that. I got more than I bargained for, I guess is what I'm saying. I got that shot of motivation and that really helps, I think, someone who's hesitant to jump into this world because they are experiencing that paralysis or that overwhelm. So thank you for doing that. It's a really, really great touch on the book.
Of course. I'm writing all the books that I wish I'd had when I was first starting, and I didn't have me.
Right.
I didn't have someone like me to call or hire or buy a book from or buy a course from or something. Like there was no one that, at least I didn't know who, if there was somebody, I didn't know where they were or who they were. And so I'm trying to kind of go back and, well, I wish I'd had this information. Here's this one. I wish I'd had this information, right? Here are things that you're hearing that might not be working or might not be helpful. Here's how you do this.
Right. Well, you nailed it. And I feel like I said before, I wish, that if I hadn't had the ability to know you and work with you and interact with you and all the great things that have come of meeting you a couple of years ago, if I didn't have any of that and I had come across your book, I would have been doing backflips because so much of what you taught me and you've taught so many other people is in this book. So I want that to be a note of like confidence for people that there's that much in this little thing. It's pretty wild. You get right to the point. You're very succinct and specific about exactly what you share in the book. And I love that. So I'm going to read off the back cover here for just a second, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Because you tell people exactly what they're going to learn in the book, and it's all there. It all delivers. So the parts of a book, which we take for granted until you try to write one, title page, copyright page, dedications, all this stuff. Like when you're going through your first nonfiction book, each of these things has a very important place in the book, and it has a very specific meaning.
Right.
That wasn't as clear to me until I had to make one. And I think that's one of the things that people kind of, they stub their toe on when they start writing. It's like, oh yeah, I know I've read a million books that have all these things in them. I should be able to get right into it. And then when they start writing, they're like, what exactly is the difference between author's notes and acknowledgements? And
when do I write the introduction? That's a question I got today. When do I write the introduction? And I talked to someone this morning who read the book on a trip and called me and said, I read your book on a trip and decided on the trip. I made a big decision. And I was pleased to hear that it was to write his book. And Excellent. He said, I wrote my introduction. And my wife said, you don't write the introduction until after. And he goes, well, I have this book. And it says, he said, I was really validated that I write because I write the introduction in the beginning and then I rewrite it after I have written the book.
Right.
I go back and make sure that what I thought I was introducing is actually what I introduced, because sometimes the contents of a book, the intended contents, change in the course of the writing of the book.
Gotcha.
So
yeah, that's great.
What's the difference between the author notes and the introduction, and where do they go?
Yeah, that was.
Right? It's not always intuitive, and that's okay. Right?
Yeah.
It's okay to not know where something goes and to have someone tell you.
Yeah, like for me, the intro, like I had a hard time separating intro from chapter 1. Like, I'm like, isn't this just chapter 1 of my book? Like I had this conversation with Zach on the fiction side. I'm like, what's the difference between a prologue and chapter 1? Like, how do I know which one is most appropriate? You talk about that specifically. And you talk about each of those things specifically in the book, and it's fantastic. I also loved your deciding the length of your book, because the repercussions of that decision are pretty significant, right?
They can be.
Book size, category,
yes,
all the things.
Yes.
Yeah.
All the decisions.
All the decisions. Well, and it significantly impacts the design.
It
Yeah.
does.
I mean, just things like font size selection, like who, you just, you start asking those questions as you're going through the process. And I think one of the cool things about having this book alongside you while you're doing that is when you run into those question marks while creating your first nonfiction book, if you don't have a reference like this to lean on and be like, oh, okay, I'm one, asking a realistic question. Two, it's normal to be kind of curious about what I should be doing here. Three, I've got some guidance and a reference to fall back on that helps me make that decision. It just makes the whole writing process better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I do. Whenever I do something new, I always try to find a reference.
Right. Right. But where's this up until now,
I got to it as quickly as I could.
But trust me, I'm not beating you up for it, but you're going to have a hard time ever getting this out of my hands again. And so I just did another book, right? I just wrote another nonfiction book.
I know you did.
And I literally had your book open the week
That's
I was in edits because I was like, okay, what did I miss?
That's my intention, is to just make your life easier. If I can make your life easier, if you don't have to guess, then that's helpful.
Right.
Yes.
A couple other things you touched on the book. You touched on when to consider writing more than one book. I think this is a really big deal for people that write in the technical space.
Mm-hmm.
As a person who had to write I wrote my first manuscript that I was going to publish and then stopped 70% of the way into the project to shift gears. That was the first project I did with Karen. Part of that was I was really having a hard time deciding how long the book should be, if I was really sitting on 3 books instead of 1. Can you talk a little bit about what motivated you to approach that in this book?
I think people try to answer so many questions in one book so that there's the perception of, I know everything, I'm the expert.
Right.
And when you do that, and I had someone ask me this yesterday because I gave him the gift of the 2 You Must books and these 2 smaller books. And he said, does someone look at the smaller book and say, this isn't a real book? This is a real book, right? And how do you decide the size? And when I said that my attitude and my position on it is that when you're writing a book, you should write what the reader needs to know, nothing more, nothing less. And when you're done, that determines the dimensions and the size of the book.
Right.
It's almost like this information is freeing, which is really my intention. My intention is to free people up to write the book that is the book that they want to write, the book that fulfills the intention, fulfills the goal of the book. So the book can do the job that the book is meant to do. It's meant to solve the problem of the reader, to help the author, to do all these things, and to free people up to write those books without getting too much in their head. So the reason I talk about the size of the book and the size of a chapter is that, gosh, we can try to put everything in one book. Shouldn't I put everything in one book so it's all in one book? And the challenge with that is when you see a book that's this thick and this big, it is not something, at least for me, and this is what I hear from other people, because it's my business. So I hear from people a lot that if I see a really big book, then I think I have to make time for that. It's not something that I can just read on an airplane ride or read when I have an hour in between something. So when I like reading a big book. So I like big books, and I cannot lie, right? Sorry, I couldn't help it.
You held back for a half a second. I could see it in your eyes.
Am I going to do it? I'm going to do it. Yes. When I'm reading a large book, when I'm reading a longer book, I will put bookmarks in the chapters, and I'll think I have time now to read a chapter. When I see a smaller book, I'll look at the estimated reading speed if it's a Kindle book, or I'll look at the estimated reading speed or estimated reading time on Amazon or wherever. Right. And if I can only read a chapter, I think, well, then when am I going to be able to read another chapter? And then I go through the process of, well, I'll read a chapter a day, so that I have some continuity and I'm connecting the information to each other. What I want to do is provide information in digestible chunks so that the reader feels empowered to go and take action. So they get out of paralysis and into action, and they feel like, not only do I feel inspired to do something, but I know exactly what to do. I don't have to guess. I don't have to keep looking. I don't have to worry about if I'm making a mistake. So you're empowered to put your book in whatever order makes sense for you. You're empowered to write your book. You're empowered to write your book so that it works in all the ways that it's supposed to work. And it's going to be the size that makes sense for the author.
Yeah. I mean, I had a big struggle with that, with Monetize Your Book with a Course. Like logically, I was like, all of these topics or subtopics are related. And, but then I got to a point as I wrote the book and I was conferring with you and Karen and a couple of other people, like, hey, like marketing, I don't dive really deep into marketing. I cover just enough to be, motivating and getting people started in the book. But I realized there was a whole book worth of marketing to write, and that it wouldn't be right to put it in there. So that's why I intentionally kind of separated that. But it took a thought process, and it took some conversations and stuff and some thinking about that to kind of figure out whether that was right for the reader or not in this case. And I was just immediately convinced, much like you said, tell them what they need to know, nothing more, nothing less, that you could write a book and then create a course without having to know all of the marketing.
Every single thing.
Right.
And your reader can't always and almost never digest everything that you have to offer. There is an axiom, or I don't know what it is. It's a rule. It's a piece of information that says 1, 2, 3, many. That we can handle 3 pieces of information.
Yeah.
But once you get to number 4, it's like, go to the end of my driveway, make a right and go 1 mile.
Yeah.
But then if I say at the T, make a left and go 15 miles and look for the red house on the right, at some point you go, hold on, I need to write this down. Right. Isn't that the truth with with sets of information? So we can generally give someone 3 things: do this, then this, then this. Anything beyond that, and even for me, sometimes I'm like, what was the first thing?
Yeah.
And I can't remember the first thing.
Yeah.
You can remember 3 things, and beyond 3 things, it's too much. So when you think about that, when it comes to your book, I touch on You Must Write a Book. I touch on marketing your book. I touch on marketing with your book. But then I wrote You Must Market Your Book, which is all about book marketing.
Right.
But I reference you can't market a crappy book. So I give a little checklist, like, make sure you go back and ensure that your book is quality, that you've dotted all your I's and crossed all your T's, that you've done all the things you're supposed to do. You can write more than 1 book. You will probably write your first book and want to write your second and your 5th and many more. You will probably get what I affectionately refer to as the fever. Yes. Because when you have one idea and it works and you like it, then you have another and then another and then another.
Right.
And that's perfectly fine. If you give your reader what they need to solve their problem or capitalize on their opportunity within your book, and they like it, they find value in it and benefit in it, they will become a fan and they will want the other things that you offer.
Right. Well, the book delivers on that.
Perfectly fine.
Well, and you kind of touched on something there that really resonated with me with the book. And it also resonated with me during the process of writing the book. There's a lot of truth for some people in that once they get started and once they're like in the battle of the book, right, and they're getting toward that last third, that the importance of organizing your book writing, organizing the project, or organizing the work is really critical, because you're probably, I say probably, because not everyone's like this. I mean, I try to avoid speaking in absolutes at all times. Like you and I are just like, we could just be the happiest little people writing all day, every day. Right. So
yes,
I don't normally experience the ebb and flow of like, I can't wait to get this book out in waves, but it's a very common thing where a lot of people get like 2/3 into the book and all of a sudden it's cumbersome, right? Because it's big
I
and you've
want to
got,
get this done. All I
yeah,
want is for this to be done and this to be over.
right. And you talk about how to, not only how to get started, but how to stay organized so that you can
Yeah.
manage the book as you write it.
Yeah.
I think that's huge because you know, a lot of people focus on like, oh, you can do this, you get started. Like, here's how I do it. Here's the software I use, you know, here's the, you know, and these are all great things. They're absolutely important. I mean, because you can't finish unless you start, but then it's like, once you're in the heat of it, how do you stay organized? How do you stay motivated? How do you overcome the hesitation to finish? And you touch on that quite a bit in the book. So I thought that was amazing. Can you maybe expand just a little bit on the importance of the organization of your project and the organization of the book effort as it progresses?
Well, I think what you're really referencing is setting not just an intention, but a deadline. And making sure that you have an end point. I talk to an awful lot of people, and this is fiction and nonfiction, not just nonfiction, where they have been working on their book for a long time.
Right.
And they will be working on their book for a long time because they have no, right? They have no end date. They have no, on this date, the next one for me, if Karen is watching, right? My next manuscript is due to her on 8/1. So
Right.
I have inspiration from, I have internal drive to finish it. I also have an exterior deadline and someone who will be blowing up my phone and email if it's not turned in on time. And having those external forces as well as the internal forces will cause you to make decisions and get something done. And I have found, and I think this is true for any type of project or initiative, book, whatever, that when you finally just say, that's it, I'm going to get this done, it actually gets done. And it's faster and easier than you think. Now, it will take longer in the overall scheme of life. Everything takes longer, is harder, and costs more money, right? Those are the three things we always have to remember.
Sure.
But in general, when you finally just say, oh, I have 6 loads of laundry to fold, it feels like it's going to take forever, but it's probably only going to take you 15 minutes.
Right.
Just fold the laundry.
Just get it done.
Just get it done. Just decide to get it done. When someone decides to write a book, my first action when I'm writing a book, and my first suggested action for someone when they're writing a book, is to do their publication and production schedule, which always begins with the end. What is the publication date of this book? What makes the most sense strategically and from a time perspective so the book can be done well?
Right.
So I started a new custom book project with someone, conversation, Zoom meeting with the author and the ghostwriter. And the first thing we did was decide after the title, right? What are we writing about? What's the book about? What's the job of the book? Okay. The very next thing we have to do is put the production calendar together. What is the publication date? What's the hard launch date of this book? Everything is predicated on that.
Right.
And
you just work back.
Right? I just work backwards. Okay, well, we need 3 weeks for this, and 3 weeks for this, and 2 weeks for this, and 4 weeks for that. And some people do that, and some people don't do that. So there's sometimes unnecessary pain and suffering. Oh, you have one.
I'm a little bit of a Honoree quarter nonfiction guidance nerd. So I have, I've printed that out from the Publishing PhD course. So for those who have not taken that course, at Publishing PhD is where I downloaded that for the first time. And then in the workbook, I Must Write My Book, you have, I think it's page 27. Let's see if I can remember numbers.
I don't even know that page. So if you know that page, that's hilarious.
I am way off.
Okay, good. Perfect.
Yeah. Well, maybe I'm not. You have multiple schedules in here, depending on.
Yep, I sure do.
What type of production you want. And so I think that it's really good for people to be able to pick up the workbooks that accompany this process. You have a workbook for write your first nonfiction book.
I do. I don't have one within reach. But yes, I have one.
Right. So if I bought the book and I'm now ready to get to work, the workbook helps me take the lessons from the book and
Yes.
move them to action, right? It's a completely
Correct.
guided thing.
Correct.
So, and if you guys
All the
aren't
pages
familiar,
for outlining your book and then going deep
right?
into the outline, capturing your ideas, your resources, your references, who's on your book team.
So
all
I
the
love
things.
that the book gives me the education that I need to get started, to get the work done, to get moving through the process, to understand all the context, to understand everything that it's going to take for me to get through this. And then I can take the workbook and I can actually use a workbook per project.
Yeah.
And that's what I've been doing is I take one workbook. I buy the workbook for that nonfiction book. It's about the least concerning investment in that entire project. It's like, I don't even think about it. I'm like, workbook, take it. I put my title of my book across the top in Sharpie, and then I get to work inside
I
of it.
love that. Thank you, Lucas.
So then I can categorize each of those workbooks by project later on.
Rogue thanks you, because all the proceeds from my books in some way support Rogue.
Yes. By the way, guys, if you have questions about what we're talking about or about the process,
put them in the chat for
yeah,
sure.
put them in the chat and we'll address them, because otherwise I'm just going to keep digging in. And we are going to have a video series on our YouTube channel and in the podcast that goes into each of these chapters in more depth after we finish the book marketing series that we're currently rolling out, which is almost over. It's getting tight. I love it.
Yes.
But
yes,
man,
well,
how
we
critical.
have to do our series on monetize your book with a course.
Yeah, we do have to do one of those.
Okay.
It's just much more fun talking about your books.
Oh. What is it? What is it?
Yeah, it is for me. I just love the topic of books.
Well, so. I mean, I have to say that we're just going to make a quick stop at buildyourcourse.com right now for a second, because we're here because I have a course, because I created a course. And so sometimes books do a lot of heavy lifting and do a great job of bringing clients, customers, boosting brand, those sorts of things. But a course is the thing you can do with your book to exponentially get returns on your investment of your book. So Andre Michel put a comment in here. I want to read this. Do you want to put it up on the screen?
Yes, it won't show the whole comment because of its length, but I will put it up there and then I'll read it out loud. So why I want to write a book. Andre says he doesn't want to write a book to make money, although that would be nice to pay for itself, but to share knowledge and put my thoughts and name out there. I wrote and published a few technical papers in kind of a sequence of topics that follow each other. Perfect. I'm writing a lot of articles for Ascendo. Great. Yep. I am familiar with Ascendo. It's an engineering application in the reliability engineering world. And those articles could mesh into 3 sequels mentioned earlier. I need to put all this together. Clear as mud. Actually, it's way clearer than mud. You have a series of articles you've already written that are all logically related.
Correct.
And that could, in their aggregate, absolutely be beneficial in book form.
100%.
Excellent. Now this would be, so Andre, I'm going to ask you a counter question, because one, absolutely, you've got the content there. Your articles can be rewritten in book form so that it's not like a replica of the articles necessarily. You're going to find, once you dig into writing this book, that you're going to go into more detail than the articles probably.
Yes.
Per topic, because with the articles you are constrained by topic, by article length normally in publishing an article for some publication.
Yep.
And then once you put those together and you work through them in with a book approach, you're going to find that you're going to have room for more, and you're going to have areas where you're maybe going to want to expand on things that'll move your reader more toward action in whatever your topics are about. Isn't that fun?
Yes. You will have a wonderful time. The workbook, where to get it? On Amazon also.
Yeah, let me pull it.
Actually, wherever you got Write Your First Nonfiction Book, you'll find the right your first nonfiction book journal.
Let me pull that down real quick and put the, so you want to, oh, it's the very first thing on my top picks list in Amazon.
Is it?
It is. That's funny. I'm not even kidding. Like that's
hilarious.
God bless Amazon. They know what they're doing. Okay, here you go.
Yes, but it's everywhere. It's wherever you bought the original book.
There you go, Andre. You can click on that link I just dropped in the chat, and it should bring you straight to where it's posted in Amazon. It is available in 2 formats. Let's reload. Okay. Yeah, my player went a little squirrely for a second there. So it's available in 2 formats, both Kindle and paperback. My advice is to get the paperback if you are like me and you need something where you can sit with a pen and work through thoughts and all the things. I really like e-reading. Just as a disclaimer, I'm not like a print book purist. I love having digital reference, but if I need something that I'm going to repeatedly open and reference, I prefer it in paper. And for a journal, I'm automatic to paper first because it's so much easier to repurpose.
However, if you have an abundance of journals, as some writers do, and you don't want to get yet one more, the reason the ebook is published is multifaceted. But one of those reasons is because some people want to use their own paper. He's asking if you posted it. Is he not able to see?
You know,
oh, you posted it in Restream. I wonder if you need to post it on LinkedIn.
Well, it should have. Oh, I know what the problem is. LinkedIn doesn't allow the. Yeah, I will post it to LinkedIn for you, Andre. Sorry. LinkedIn is a one-way road when it comes to streaming.
Oh, interesting. So some people want to use their own paper, but they want the exercises. So they want to know what the questions are.
Right.
So they use the ebook to work in concert with their own paper. I actually tend to do that myself. I don't want another journal. I like to have one continuous journal that I'm putting all the things in. And so I will buy a digital version of something and use my own paper. And now they have this screen you can buy that makes writing on your iPad feel like a notebook. I need to get one of those because I love my iPad, but I don't use and I have the pencil, but I don't ever use it.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That is,
I need to get whatever that screen is that makes it feel like paper.
There you go. Yeah. So that's where Kindle's kind of cornered the market on that screen design. And that's why yeah. And it's funny because I have a Kindle Scribe.
You have the Scribe.
Which is meant for you to obviously take notes on and stuff. They have to sell new pen tips for that because it even wears down. They wanted to get so close to the pencil feel.
Oh, interesting. You know what? I have requested a new Kindle. A couple of years ago, a few EBMers got me a Kindle and I have worn it out. So I requested a new Kindle for my upcoming birthday. And my husband asked if I wanted the Scribe, and I said, I don't want it to do anything other than just be a place for me to read. I don't want it to pop messages up.
Yeah.
Why I don't read on my iPad Kindle app, because when I'm reading, I just want to read.
Right.
Yeah. So I read on my phone all the time because that's the easiest thing, it's always with me. And so when I find myself with even 45 seconds, I want to be reading something. So, but I always get interrupted. It's interrupted by a phone call or a text message or an alert or an alarm or something. So I just wanted a Kindle that was sometimes a Kindle is just a Kindle.
That's right. I've had both the Kindle reader, strict reader, and then the Scribe. And just my limited and very personal opinion is, if you're not going to take notes on what you're reading, like in the document, or like I've used it for reviewing other people's work where they're like, hey, can you look at this and make sure there's no problems? I'll take notes right on in a notebook, and then I can export those. But there are some limitations. Like I can't I can't download an editable file. It's very interesting.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. But, I'm with you. Like I love reading on a Kindle of any design because it's far less interaction. I'm on all the social media channels for all the little things, and it's nonstop. If I'm trying to read on my
Yeah.
phone, which I love to scrolling read, oh, I love it. So that's one thing. But I think it was Amber when we were at EBM in December.
Oh, December.
Yeah, it was the first time I saw her using her iPad as kind of like a notebook. And I was like, oh, that looks great.
I have that. Yeah, I have that. I love that. I have the stand where I can use it as a laptop, and then I have the pencil. Love it.
So I either sound like we either sound like the craziest old tech people, or we sound brilliant. I can't tell which is which.
So it's a farmer.
So to bring us back to the book for just a minute before we close out, if you had like one last like parting point of wisdom from the book that you think everyone could take away from this book, besides the things we've already talked about, is there anything else that is there for you to share?
Yeah, that writing a book is a really great idea, and you can write a book.
Right.
That's the whole. That's the whole point of the book, is it's to get people out of paralysis and into action. And I feel like I've said that 10 times in this hour, so I apologize, but that really is the purpose of the book, is to provide that environment and encouragement. And then an actual process, because you will go through the stages, and the stages end with, I did it.
Well, yeah,
I can do this. Maybe I can do this. And you end with, I did this. And that is such a great feeling, to hold your book in your hand and to realize you created something from nothing, and it's going to outlast you. It will be here forever.
Right.
It will create magical things, including conversations like the call I got this morning from the person who I gave an advance copy of the book to, like 10 days before it came out. And he said, oh, I'm going on a trip. And he took the book and then texted me this morning and said, I'm just back from my trip, and while I was gone, I made the decision. I made a big decision. Do you know what that decision is? And I was like, well, I kind of think I know. And it was because of the book. The book gave him, we had first met before the pandemic. So that would have been in 2019. I remember going to have coffee with him in 2019. So we have been talking about it for 4 years. And so this book did its job, which a book always has a job. You have to identify what the job of the book is. The job of this book is to get people to understand that they can write their book and get them to writing. And this book has done its job already, even though it's new, which makes me very happy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it is now one of my repeat references. These two sit on my desk at all times, because once I've done this, I'm going to do this. It's like, write the book. And then you get the book out and you're like, yes. And then it's like, go market the book. So like these two literally, stay within arm's reach at all times, and the workbooks, so that I'm always actively working in both of those processes, with the writing and the publishing and the marketing of the books that we are writing and publishing. So, well, Honoree, thank you so much for taking the time to kind of dive into the book a little bit. We did a surface dive, and we got to talk about how awesome this is and how many aspiring authors out there that could be benefiting from this. We talked about the journal. We've talked about confidence. We talked about all the things, and we're going to get into the details, the nitty gritty in the YouTube videos that we'll put out in series. So you guys keep your eyes peeled for that.
I just want to answer Andre. So Andre and Michelle, this morning I got this call from this colleague of mine who I gave the book to, and he went and made the decision to write his book. And he said, I don't want to bother you with this. And I said, this is my very favorite topic in the world. My very favorite conversation about my very favorite topic, which is, I want to write a book. Can we talk about it? It's my favorite conversation in the whole world. So Lucas, you're thanking me for showing up. And I'm thinking, Are you kidding me? This is my very favorite thing in the whole entire world. So you asking questions from France. Hello. Obviously, I'm excited about that. It's kind of the best thing ever for me.
Yeah.
So all of the questions, I hope you will come back in 2 weeks when we will be doing another live. I don't know if you're going to be here next week, Lucas, but I'm not.
Yeah, I'll be here. What do you want me to talk about, guys?
I don't know. But if you'll come back and ask more questions, nothing would make me happier than for you to come back and ask more questions, unless you came with some macaron or some brie or something. If you came with French snacks, that would be even better. But without the snacks, it is still my favorite topic. I'm happy to take all of the questions. Please always ask the questions. If you are watching this later and you have questions, please ask the questions in the comments. Not only will we answer them in the comments, but we will also probably answer them live on another live so that we can kind of expand on the answers. It's easier to do it in conversation than in writing. So thank you for coming and asking questions.
Yeah,
I had a great time. I hope you did too. Yeah.
No, this is awesome. And Andre, if you're interested in learning more about the actual publishing process of your own book, I super encourage you to check out Publishing PhD, which is where I went to learn how to publish my book. After you've written it, you can take Honoree's course, Publishing PhD, and you can learn exactly all the steps. And trust me, it is a very multifaceted process. And it takes a lot of immersion time with it, but it's absolutely doable. And I would check out Publishing PhD, the course. I'll try and add that link to the show notes.
Can you put the link in the show notes?
Yeah.
Did you hear that?
I did. What's happening?
J'ai oublié les croissants. He put the croissant. Brie, I said brie and macaron, and he said croissant. And I said, j'ai oublié les croissants. I forgot the croissants.
Nice.
Yes.
Nice.
We need.
Oh, this is fun.
Homage.
So I'm going to get to the.
Yes.
I'll get a link up here for Publishing PhD.
Thank you, Lucas. Grab it from the EBMC.
I am working on exactly that.
Is that what you're doing? Okay. Perfect.
Yes, ma'am. And so if you guys aren't familiar, Publishing PhD is a course that Honoree put together. It was really I read You Must Write a Book and then met Honoree through the Publishing PhD course. She does a monthly live Q&A. Yep. Fantastic opportunity to meet her and
it was this, Lucas. Watch.
It really was. It is so good. And I could not believe how much there was to learn and what I did learn in that course. It is I'm the course guy. I'm telling you guys, phenomenal course. Like I have gone through this over and over again because every time you publish, it's like a little bit different every time. And I know you're not going to brag about this, but your price is the lowest it's ever been for that course now.
It is. And yeah.
So I highly encourage you guys to check it out if you get what I'm saying. And I dropped the link in the chat. Andre, I will drop it in LinkedIn as well, since I know that that's a thing. And Honoree, anything else you want to mention before we...
Oh, just that I do live Q&As for that 10 times a year. And the next one will be the second Tuesday in September. If you get the course, you'll be able to watch the last 3 Q&As because Bailey will have put those in the course platform on both sides. And then you can come and hang out with me and the students in the course that come from all over the world. It's really fun.
All right. So I've put the link in LinkedIn and I put it on the chat. So you should see it on Facebook and YouTube as well. Honoree, again, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Always fun to chat with you. And it's such an honor that you read my books when I send them to you in dirty, unedited format. And then again, in pretty formatted format and always say kind things. I really appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am. Well, Huge fan. Love them. They are literally my guiding light for everything nonfiction. And I just feel fortunate that I found them, because otherwise I would have probably not had my book published when I did. Actually, I can guarantee it wouldn't have been published when it was. And I wouldn't have felt, I think, so good about what I put out. I mean, I feel like I put out,
like you're proud of it. It's a good book.
It's a great book, and it wasn't just the writing. So
it was a great book. It was fun. It was fun to help you put together, and we're about to do it again.
Yes, ma'am. Well, thank you so much.
All right. We'll see you next time. Thanks, everybody.
All right, guys, take it easy. Andre, thank you for being so interactive today. We really appreciate it, bud.
Yes, thank you, Andre.